I really appreciate you, though, working in this industry still and raising beef, because holy cow, the assault on this on our food security is it's a war of attrition right now.
Oh, I know, and it's just nuts. It's all the way through everything, because I hunt and fish, and I'm not a trophy hunter, I'm a meat hunter.
Uh-huh.
And I kill my deer almost every year, but last year I didn't get nothing. It was just a mess.
Is the regulations for hunting and fishing becoming tighter?
Well, we got too many predators.
Uh-huh.
You can't get a tag.
Okay, so they issue tags based on like a number count of what
Yeah.
they think the wild number count is.
Yeah, but the problem is the cougar population has exploded since '93. You can't hunt cougars with dogs, and that's the only effective way to get cougars, because they're nocturnal. You can't see them at night.
Mm-hmm.
You can't find them in the day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've spent I don't know how many months of time in the mountains, and I've never seen one I could shoot.
Huh.
But there's 9,000 to 10,000 of them in the state of Oregon.
There's all these environmental leftist organizations that are starting 501c3 nonprofits, supposedly, that have been working to illegalize the hunting of cougars. And yeah, California is even worse. Apparently, this is predator defense. Apparently they have, while many states use lethal control methods to protect the public when cougars accidentally enter human population areas, California found a better way. Not only have they not allowed hunting of cougars in over 30 years, but they approved groundbreaking legislation so progressive, that changed how they handle public safety issues. So they are artificially increasing the numbers of cougars and all other predators through, it says bears and wolves too, in order to disproportionately explode the predator population and reduce the number of prey animals that humans have traditionally hunted. And this plays right into the globalists' stated environmental agenda to persuade humans to move into their smart cities and stay in their smart cities in the name of rewilding the rural areas. They're going to be using fear of predators to do that.
But there's so many cougars out there, they're just wiping out the deer and the elk.
Interesting. I have not heard this, and that is a point that I'm going to make on the forums and online to try to educate people into raising your own meat and dairy, as opposed to relying on hunting, gathering, because I tell people, if crap hits the fan and even a portion of humans revert back to trying to actually survive off hunting, the numbers of wildlife are going to deplete so quickly that it's not going to be viable.
Oh, they're already almost extinct in places.
Deers?
Deer.
Uh-huh.
Like when I was a kid, I used to be able to go out up to Mount Ashland, and if you didn't see 100 deer in a weekend, that was slow.
Wow. 100?
And now, yeah, at least.
Wow.
And now, like last year, I went up for 3 days up at Little Red Mountain up here below Dutchman Peak,
Mm-hmm.
and I seen 3 deer in 3 days, 2 does and a fawn.
It's like 3% of what you saw when you were a kid.
Yeah, and see, the problem is the predators are getting all the fawns and the calves. Like I seen last year elk hunting, I seen about 40 to 50 does.
Huh?
And usually there's just hundreds. And there wasn't one single fawn survived.
Hmm.
And I seen elk. I had 1 day, we have 5 days to hunt. And 3 days, I only seen 1 elk. But 1 day I seen 19 elk. And there was 1 bull and 2 calves and 17 cows. All all them cows lost their calves.
And then they can't replenish their next
So
generation. So that
next year
they just drop
there's
off.
going to be
even
out of them
less.
17 cows, or no, 18 cows. There's only going to be two survive.
From like old age or whatever.
No, survive the calves. The calves survive. Well, they're getting cows too.
But the calves.
But they're getting all the calves.
Are you thinking that there is a need for hunters with night vision and hunting cougars at night or something?
Well, the thing is the effective way to do it is with hounds.
Or maybe baiting the cougars in to come in.
Yeah, they could do that too.
There's a movement for pack goats, and one of the strategies is that they're using pack goats to pack like eight goats up into the hills, and then they're tethered at night, and then they try to lure in predator animals to hunt them, and then whatever they kill, they can kill up to a huge elk and part it up and put the parts into the goats' pannier bags, and the goats will carry everything.
Yeah.
And so the goats are used as pack animals and as bait.
Yeah.
Once again, the globalists, environmentalists have headed off, trying to head off our ability to subsist as human beings outside of their artificial economy. U.S. Forest Service used bad study to create pack goat ban. There is an organization that is trying to band together to uphold our rights to go into rural areas with pack goats. It's called NAPCA right here. Check it out. Jump on board. We need everyone to push back against this bullshit environmental movement.
We need a certain amount of predators to take care of the
Stragglers.
Yeah,
the sick
but
ones.
the ones that die and stuff like that. But the problem is they are taking all healthy animals. Most all the cougars out there are females because toms will kill off all the young ones for territory and
like the males that are starting to mature, the bigger ones will get in a fight and will actually kill them?
oh yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Huh, interesting.
That's the only control we have right now with cougars is them killing themselves off. Just the predators are way out of control with everything.
Have you ever tasted cougar meat?
Yeah,
And
it
how-
tastes a lot like pork. And the wolves, they're a worse mess.
They're
say they
they're overpopulated right now, the wolves.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't know why they don't have any feelings for the deer and the elk, but they got feelings for these predators. Well, you know, I have feelings for animals and stuff, and I only shoot what I eat. And I just don't understand why they can't take care of any predator problem. You know, it's same thing with the fish. The seals and the sea lions are at the mouth of the river, and the fish can't get up the river. The runs are just terrible, and we were looking at all the fish, and probably a third of them had bite marks
From
the
almost being
seals.
caught from seals.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Getting away.
Huh. And the hunting of seals is like highly protected by
All the
regulatory
environmentalists.
agencies.
Yeah,
Okay.
you
So yeah,
can't-
the whole environmental movement and the whole man-made global warming, the whole ideology is being funded by the people on the top, funding this and not funding that, and using propaganda that glamorizes this and vilifies that enough to get all the people that are underneath to behave in these illogical ways. Like there's a certain amount of these people on the bottom having to check out of their common sense in order.
There's no common sense involved.
Yeah.
It's just like, you know, this water deal, you know. See, they
I had not
they
heard
divert
this.
the water through canals to get to Howard Prairie. And now they've lost them diversions, so the water will run to the Klamath side instead of to Howard Prairie. And that's why they didn't get any water in Howard Prairie this year. And they won't tell you this, but they divert all that water to run on this side instead of the other. They want it to protect the chewy chub, which is
A fish? Is that a fish or something?
It's a fish over there that they never they never eat or nothing, but it was just a fish that was there when the Indians were here.
And so they're using the word native to justify being able to protect
so,
it.
So they want the water to protect it. I think we ought to make them get on TV and let us watch them eat them to each other. Because they're supposed to be terrible eating.
And so it's obviously an excuse.
Yeah, it's just an excuse.
Okay. Yeah. You're talking about. Are you talking about over in Klamath Falls?
Yeah.
I heard that they were having pushback from the farmers last year and protest because they were the regulatory establishment was purposefully early on in spring they were letting water out of the reservoirs more than they should, and they shouldn't be. Apparently, they shouldn't be letting any of it out if there's perceived to be, going to be droughts the next summer. But they're letting it out, and then they started using an excuse that there was. I think it was that fish that they can't release any more of it out of the reservoirs for the canals for irrigation of the agriculture because it will bring the water levels down too low for the happiness of those fish.
Yeah.
And people were set up a huge tent in toward downtown and were protesting it.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that the same thing has been going on with everyone's reservoirs, that the useful idiots that are programmed underneath the elite, the environmentalists and whatnot, that they are all tweaking things in order to make it more difficult for agriculture and for small farmers really. Yeah. And we know that they're trying to push us all into their smart cities in the future, and that they're going to try to economically push humans out of the rural areas. So that they can rewild the rural areas. Have you heard them talking about this?
No.
It's they're not talking about it on the opening, but it's like you've heard of like the World Economic Forum. That's the agendas that they set forth when they meet. Now they're on with like Agenda 2035 or something like that, and they're like, these are the benchmarks that we want to achieve by the year 2035, and it's like, move all humans into smart cities and rewild everything else and bar the humans from entering it even. And so I'm just like, okay, well then that means that we need to encourage and help educate people to exit the I call them shitties, the shitties and go rural, and we need to take back the and popularize. We need to coolize the rural living, because I think that was really where they got the foot in the door for being able to manipulate society. Is they, starting with their newspapers, and then the radio, and then the television, they started what I call hobunkizing rural folk and starting to chip away at our insecurities,
Yeah,
which got us to move into the cities. And then after a couple of generations of us predominantly living in the cities, and we forget how to farm, then they start buying up the farms, like Bill Gates being the largest farmland owner, and now BlackRock is buying it all up, and it all fits into that agenda. The only thing I can think of is for us to go, subsistence is the best resistance.
Yeah.
It is a term that's really coming out lately that really makes sense, and that's the basis of everything that I'm doing is just trying to have, all I need is 3 ewes in milk. It only takes a half gallon of sheep milk to survive off of. A half gallon, get this, okay? This is serious. This is like, like every tick of efficiency within your industry is a make it or break it deal. Sheep milk, a half a gallon of sheep milk is 2,100 calories. Mm-hmm. That's how much you need to survive on a day. I mean, minimal. And a half gallon of goat milk is 1,400 calories.
So that's all you do is
But get
milk?
this, a half gallon of cow milk is only 800 calories.
Yeah, it's not near.
So sheep milk is almost 3 times as calorically efficient or calorically dense as cow milk, and it's almost twice as calorically dense and nutritionally dense, everything, as like the nutrients that are in sheep milk are roughly 3 times higher than cow milk and roughly 2 times higher than goat milk. So I tell people I am a dairy sheep preacher. I'm preaching that for subsistence living, dairy sheep are by far the easiest easiest way. And I've been
And
like,
it's not pasteurized and
no,
cooked and
yeah, it's the best. yeah.
everything taken out
Yeah.
like what you buy in the store.
Yeah, like when we heat it up, it just retards the proteins and makes it more difficult for our body to utilize.
You know what? I can't deal with dairy anymore.
It's because the pasteurized, homogenized dairy.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah.
I grew up on raw milk.
Oh, did you? And you never had, but you never had a problem with digesting raw milk when you were younger?
Never.
Yeah, raw milk. I don't know of anyone that has a problem with it unless they have a severely diminished microbiome in their stomach. And then if you take in the raw milk that has microbes in it that are beneficial, that are rather foreign to your stomach, because the people that usually have depleted microbiome, it's because they're eating a standard American diet, shitty diet, and they're taking antibiotics and all that stuff, and the bacteria that they do have in there is like an overgrowth of non-beneficial like bacteria like candida and stuff like that. And so when they take in raw milk, it makes them feel bad because they are basically making their microbiome go to war with this new, instead of like integrating it slowly, because they found that people who think that they're lactose intolerant, they can actually continue to consume raw dairy and their symptoms will go away. So either it means that their microbiome is becoming balanced and integrating those new microbes, or it could mean that some studies suggest that lactase that we need, that it's an enzyme that our stomach creates that is able to break down the lactose, that it's basically a use it or start to lose it phenomenon. So if you try to ingest milk and your body isn't able to process it because it's not producing lactase, you can continue to consume the raw milk and give it the practice, and it'll get over it basically. So, but yeah, raw milk is like one of the best things. Apparently, the only thing that's better than that is the raw meat. Have you heard of the raw carnivore diet?
No, I haven't.
All plants have anti-nutrient toxins. That they have supposedly evolved to try to defend themselves from being overeaten by herbivores, because they can't physically move and run, and so they create chemicals. They are concentrated in specifically aren't just in the leafy green parts of the plants, but they're even more concentrated in the seeds, nuts, and grains. And what they're finding out is that like these are defense mechanisms, and the plants are identifying the seeds, nuts, and grains like they are their babies, and so they're attempting to safeguard the overeating of their babies by pumping more of this deterrent toxins into their seeds, and that's what's actually causing a lot of the difficulty in people ingesting wheat.
Well, see, that's my problem.
Huh?
I eat meat and vegetables, and I can't do sugar at all.
Yeah.
I go into AFib. I've had 2 heart ablations, and sugar and caffeine trigger AFib on me.
I've never heard AFib. What's that?
It's your heart beat. And see,
Irregular?
yeah, it's well, what it does is when I eat sugar or caffeine, I had these nodes in my heart that were interrupting. It's on the electrical side, and it was interrupting my natural pacemaker. I went through 2 heart ablations where they went in and
Do you eat a low fat?
froze them out.
Do you eat low fat diet?
Yes.
That's why. Okay, so the elite have been knowingly trying to get us to malnourish ourselves by promoting a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet. And what that does is half the nutrients that our body needs are what's called fat-soluble. And so they literally need a high-quality fat in order to carry those minerals into our body and be bioavailable and used. And so they have knowingly been promoting a low-fat diet and saying, oh, fat makes you fat. It's not actually fat that makes you fat. You have to have an abundance of carbohydrates in your blood in order to trigger insulin release And insulin's job is to pack away the excess carbs and the fat that are in your blood system into your blood tissue. It's not actually fat that makes you fat. If you have you heard of the ketogenic diet? The ketogenic diet, it takes out all carbohydrates, or the vast majority of them, out of your system, and it's based on a high fat diet, and it actually, people are losing weight. It's
Yeah.
completely
Oh, I know,
thrown
I do.
everything out of the
Yeah.
water.
For my oils, or cooking and stuff, I'll use olive oil and coconut oil.
Okay, so that's the other part of the conspiracy, is that all plant-based oils, fats, are inferior to animal fats,
fats, yeah.
because specifically the ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s, plant-based oils are higher ratio of omega-6 fatty acids, and those are inflammatory. But all animal fats are a much higher ratio of omega-3s, and that's actually anti-inflammatory. So what they've been doing essentially, progressively, starting with their food pyramid, as far as I know, is they've been promoting a diet that is low fat, high carb. Because we don't have the fat, we're not able to absorb and utilize half the nutrients that our body needs that's in our food. So we're being malnourished. The high carbohydrate diet is actually mainly feeding a parasite loads. Scientists have found that, like, on average, humans have 7 different parasites in our system. And if you've ever had sushi or raw sushi, then you have on average 52 different parasites. And these aren't like visible parasites like worms, but like microscopic parasites oftentimes. But the point is that, like, a high carbohydrate diet is being argued now as being like just fueling the overabundance of parasites, which further sap from your nutrients that you need. So they're getting us a double whammy to malnourish ourselves right there. And then there's a third aspect of it that is really important, is that the low, not having enough animal fats, our whole central nervous system and our nerves themselves, the sheaths that are on the outside of them, are regulated by fat. They are supported by a healthy animal fat diet. And so it's like these wires. If these wires are like akin to our central nervous system, the rubber that's on the outside that's insulating them is the equivalent of it's being maintained by our fat levels. And so when we don't have enough healthy animal fats, then we start to get holes in them, and we start to get short circuits and weird shit like that going on. Then there's this other element where when they just found this nutrient in the last 5 years called vitamin K2, and its sole responsibility in our body is to manage where the calcium is deposited in our body, and it's supposed to be deposited in our bones and in our teeth. But when you don't have K2 in your body, it ends up, it's like it doesn't have your body doesn't have a calcium janitor. It doesn't put the calcium into the right areas, and so calcium just gets haphazardly deposited into all the places that it shouldn't be. And in particular, one of the most devastating places that it's accumulating is the inside walls of our arteries, which calcifies our arteries and makes it to where they can't flex and expand with each pumping of our heart, and consequently that puts blood pressure on our heart, and it's causing all these heart diseases. So we have them systematically getting us to kill ourselves, and then we go into the pharmaceutical companies, which is get on a medication, that speeds up, it confounds the problem even more. The reason that that our bodies don't have K2 is not only because we have been convinced to eat lesser animal fats, but K2 is only in animal fats that have been fed chlorophyll. And so when we started the feedlots, feeding them feeding them grain and even hay that isn't green, cannot produce K2 in the animal fat, and therefore then when we eat it, we're not getting K2 in our diet like all of our ancestors used to do.
So that's why they say grass-fed animals are a lot better for you?
That is the main reason that none of the people that are advertising that, they don't even know that. Like this K2, this vitamin K2 just came out in the last couple of years, and from my knowledge, like still like very little people know about it. Even the people that are toting grass-fed, they're just doing it because we just know that that's like what happened in nature. We didn't feed them, a grain diet, and also because a grass-fed diet, you have far less problems with your livestock diseases because they're not having an overabundance of a parasite load and stuff like that. And I think that all of their cumulative actions that they're being directed to do that are illogical are all for the purpose of war of attrition on humans in order to get us dependent on the artificial economy instead of on Caesar instead of on nature.
Yeah,
like
they want government control.
in the end, you will only be able to serve one or two masters: the artificial system or nature. Obviously, there's forces that are trying to corner us into having to completely depend off and live off of an artificial economy.